the Akash is a field, and the field records everything. And so you and I have Akashic records of our own, trees, animals, businesses, even groups of people have Akashic records. Um, so so you and I learn stuff in this lifetime, and then some people have the perception that when we die, it's all lost. Well, no, nothing's lost. Everything, every experience of your soul through all of its lifetimes in this and other dimensions and other places, other planets, is all stored in the Akash. And so you can access it. It's your birthright. You are your soul. You're allowed to tap back into the wisdom of your soul through all of its ages.
Get ready to reclaim your life, discover inspiring stories, practical tools, and the path to true happiness. This is Reclaim Your Life with Irina. Let's begin the journey. Hello and welcome to Reclaim Your Life with Irina. Today we have a special guest, a returnee, Paul Marwood. He is the founder of Solution Meditations and 3 other next-generation soul activations. He has been an international teacher and guide of his modalities and the Akashic Records for over 12 years. Living his life through the more unlimited aspect of his heart, his focus is to support conscious leaders, visionaries, and everyday people to consciously access the unlimited synchronicities of the unified field that connects everything together. Welcome, Paul. It is a pleasure to have you again.
It's a pleasure to be here, Irina. Thanks so much for inviting me back.
Yeah. So in a few words, please share with us, who is Paul?
Who's Paul? Well, I guess the Paul now is the Paul that's really focused on his own personal growth and spiritual journey. And as part of that, helping others. I really am a sort of an intuitive life purpose coach is sort of part of my main focus, as well as the solution meditations. I'm really here in service. I want to be here to help so many others. And while I'm learning along the way, I don't see myself as any better than anyone else, but I'm just, as I learn, the universe will bring people to me that kind of need what I've learned, vibrational alignment, and then I can help them. So it really is kind of a step down process. My non-physical teachers teach me, and then I teach others. So, it really is this beautiful escalator of knowledge and assistance. So, I love being outside. I love being in nature. I love exercise. I love tearing around on my mountain bike. But I also love being in the Akashic Records, so it's an interesting dilemma where you can be dealing with multidimensional things, and then sure enough, 15, 20 minutes later, you're walking around the supermarket like everyone else, doing shopping like everyone else.
Yeah. So how do you kind of transfer from that realm to this realm? Do you have any?
Yeah. I think when you do it enough, and also you're conscious of remaining grounded. I think the biggest challenge is when you allow yourself to become ungrounded. So when you come out of channeling Akashic Records, which is a level of conscious channeling anyway, if you're ungrounded, then when you go shopping, you forget a lot of stuff, or you wander around aimlessly, that sort of thing. But when I come out of the records, I have a nice glass of water, or orange juice, whatever the case may be. And, just sometimes even if I'm not feeling completely, I just go and walk in the dirt, put my feet in the dirt and just ground in Mother Earth, send her love, take a few deep breaths. And the grounding makes all the difference. And, you and I can then function back on this world again perfectly normally. So it's not hard.
So how did you discover Akashic Records in your
Well,
life?
yeah, well, that's an interesting double story sort of thing, because when I had the rapid Kundalini awakening, I one would say past lives it wasn't forced upon me, but suddenly I was having past life experiences, and it wasn't something that I chose or even understood. But I knew they were me, and I knew they were my past lives, and I went through all sorts of experiences, and it was pretty intense, even to the level of my body didn't know the difference. So if something happened to me in the past life, if there was a wound or something like that, the body would even a welt would appear, so it was, even the body didn't really know the difference. But then sort of, 6 years later, I would I was in a different situation. I was in a different country, United States, and a friend was an Akashic instructor, and my wife at the time, my ex-wife, she was really excited about learning the Akashic Records. So she said she invited this lady to the healing studio that we had, and so she taught us the Akashic Records. The method she taught, because there's many different methods. The methods was a method called the Pathway Prayer Process by Dr. Linda Howe. And I used that method for many years. I use a different method now, an invocation, but that was a wonderful starting point. And, it was a little bit interesting because we're all a little different. In the case of my wife was very good at doing Akashic readings for other people, and I was good at readings for myself. And the piece that stopped me was that I was in such high integrity. I didn't want to be able to be in the place where I was doing a reading for someone else unless I was 100% certain of my abilities, because I didn't want to tell them anything that wasn't, completely right or completely, whatever it may be. So, because when a reader or you go and see someone for something, you don't have that person tell you something that you could make a decision in your life that could be impacted that's done through their filter. I wanted to make sure that I wasn't filtering anything with the Paul piece. It was their records. They were getting their information direct. So it took me probably about 8 months before I was confident enough with what I was getting. I was able to share with people in sessions with confidence, knowing that I'm not manipulating them in any way. Paul could step aside to that level, because I don't want to be responsible for changing someone's lives inappropriately, if you know what I mean.
Right.
But the beauty about the records, just on the same but a subtly different note, you literally, as a reader, you fall in love with every single client that you have, because you get to see them in the records in the realm of their soul, and you get to see them in their light. And it's so, you suddenly see the perfect, one would say, version of them. They can't do anything wrong, because there is no wrong when you're in the records. There's just experiences, and there are lessons that can be learned from those experiences, or manifestations where you can learn new things. And so even though the events can be sometimes a little traumatic that I observe, I'm always looking for the light, and the light always comes through in the records. It's really beautiful. You just, some of the most traumatic things can just be transformed, and that flows through. So it's just beautiful.
Yeah, that's incredible. For somebody who is not familiar with Akashic Records, how would you describe it?
That's a great question. Okay, so the Akash is a field, and the field records everything. And so you and I have Akashic records of our own. Trees, animals, businesses, even groups of people have Akashic records. So you and I learn stuff in this lifetime, and then some people have the perception that when we die, it's all lost. Well, no, nothing's lost. Everything, every experience of your soul through all of its lifetimes in this and other dimensions and other places, other planets, is all stored in the Akash. And so you can access it. It's your birthright. You are your soul. You're allowed to tap back into the wisdom of your soul through all of its ages. Of course, for the most part, when I'm doing readings, we are working in this earth plane. I have done galactic Akashic records and do that piece as well, but for the most part, we're in this realm. And so the Akashic records are a beautiful way that anyone, probably 200 years ago, only more spiritually evolved people could tap into that level of the field, the Akash. But honestly, today, anyone can do it. And as I said, there's many different methods. Some use pathway prayers, some using chanting, some using invocations. There's various ways you can get in. And most of those are just bridges. They help, like in my case, saying the invocation, it just helps me shift my consciousness into the connection with the soul guidance team and into the records. But what a wonderful way, so to answer your question more directly, what a wonderful way to be able to tap into the wisdom of your soul for all of its lifetimes. So if you're asking a question about something, if it doesn't relate to this lifetime, you can be guided your soul guidance team, the Lords of the Records, can take you back to that lifetime, or you can tap into the wisdom of your soul that's gained from that lifetime, or you can even go into the future. The past, one would say, has been set, but you can reframe the past, which is how we heal traumas and things like that. But the future is not set in stone. It's more in the form of potentials. But you can still tap into your future self who's been more successful at business or more successful at whatever it is that you wish. So you can tap into that future self and ask questions and get information. And it's just a wonderful way of us learning a deeper level of ourselves. Why do I react a certain way when this happens? Or why am I afraid of water? Or, why do I act this way? And so you can tap into that, which is beautiful because it allows you and I to gain guidance from not only what we've learned, which is through our mind, but also now tap into the records to gain guidance for pretty much every aspect of our life, from what should I eat for my cereal today, all the way to what is my sole purpose, So there's, yeah.
I didn't know you could go in the future. That's interesting.
It's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun.
How did it personally help you? Learning about it and then reading and asking questions.
Well, that's pretty much the answer is almost what you just said. I'm in my records relatively regularly, and it's if I have a question, something happens in my life, and I say, well, why did I manifest that, or why did that happen, or why am I feeling like this? Someone hurt me or something. Okay, why am I feeling this way? And so the records are a perfect mechanism for me to go in and find out about that. Have I had past lives with that person? What was our interaction in those past lives? Is this almost like a karmic action reaction that's taking place, or is it a remembrance of something that happened earlier? I also go into my Akashic Records to help me with guidance with my own business. I'm blessed. I'm pretty clear on what I'm here to do in my soul purpose and things like that. But I'm also part of that clarity is because I can go into my records. One of the most common questions that my clients ask me is, what is my soul purpose? So what a perfect environment. We're in your soul's territory in the Akashic Records. So why not ask that question? You can gain beautiful guidance. And the beautiful thing about it too is it's really practical. I mean, you might think that the Akashic Records is an esoteric type thing, but you can get real practical things to the point where your soul guidance team will sort of say, all right, get a pen and paper out. Here's the thing you need to do. You need to do this. You need to do this. So it can be very practical. It's not, in a way, this could be an airy-fairy type place or a sort of esoteric place where you're going back and you're exploring pieces of your past lives. But there can also be, it's all focused on helping you right here, right now. So if you go in the past or the future or this lifetime, everything is really focused ultimately, no matter what your question is, on helping you right here, right now to move forward in a more empowered way, a clearer way in your life. And that's what I love about the records. They're awesome.
Yeah, you make a good point that can guide you and get you help right here, right now. That's incredible. And I think it's better than asking externally somewhere for advice, but tapping into your own soul wisdom. And yes, you cannot touch it or see it.
Well, you actually hit the nail on the top of the head with that statement, because the beautiful thing about going into your records, you're going to get your information that's right for you from your soul guidance team. If you go and see another expert, the expert might have a lot of knowledge, but they're going to do the best they can to give you the information that you need, but it goes through their filter, it goes through their wisdom, which may or may not be right for you. But when you go in the records, you're getting the information that's right for you because it's coming straight from your soul. So well said, Irina. You that's exactly right.
Thank you. So what kind of questions can you ask in Akashic Records reading?
How, what, why are great questions. What can I learn from this situation? How can I be a better parent, for my children? Where did this come from that caused me to do this or say this? So it's um, they're one would say a little bit open-ended questions, but they're questions where you're asking to get information and guidance from your soul. So I'm going to clarify a piece. Guidance is the important piece to know from your soul, because there's sort of a fine line when you're Akashic Records. You and I live in the free will zone. So as a soul, we come to this earth. We're here to have experiences. Our soul chooses, our parents, our environment, potential experiences that it wants to experience as part of its growth in this lifetime. And for the most part, those happen. But because we're in the free will zone, they don't always. But I mean, hey, if you're immortal, who cares? You just come back and have another go at it. So it doesn't matter. Years in our time are significant, but years in an immortal's time is like it's another blink in the ocean, so to speak. Yeah. So, but the other piece is guidance. Sometimes I might have clients that come in with the expectation to say, you have to tell me, what do I need to do? And I'll just do it, And that's beautiful because that's our world we live in. But the truth of the matter is your soul is here to guide you. The soul can give you some practical information, but ultimately it is meant to be guidance. You and I in our consciousness at our human level can take on the additional information that our souls wants to share with us, but it needs to be taken on as guidance. We still need to apply our own judgment and then make the decisions from there. So your soul's not going to say, get up tomorrow morning and you have to do this, because it doesn't work that way. It's the same as when you and I get our downloads and get our intuitive hits. Our intuitive hits just come in as this beautiful feeling or this inner knowingness. It doesn't come in as, Irina, you better do this or else, it doesn't work that way. So, and that's because of the free will zone, so sometimes if you're ever going to have an Akashic record reading, just have that in mind. The information comes in as guidance. It's not meant to tell us that we have to do something, and then we make our decisions from a wiser place, because we just have information from this life, our mind, our soul guidance team, and then from there we can make a better decision.
So it's like having a buffet of different possibilities, and then you choose a specific one according to your beliefs, according to where you are in life and what you have experienced. But it gives you kind of a centered focus. These are all the options, and it's up to you to choose which way you want to go.
Yeah, and honestly, it's probably not even quite as much as the buffet, because the advice or the suggestions can be pretty direct, but it's just not, you have to do this. This is what we would suggest, that's useful to you. So sometimes it really isn't a buffet. There's, when you get that bullet point list of this is the thing that we suggest, this is the thing it's pretty, it's kind of touch and go as to being told to do something. It gets pretty close to that level sometimes. But the truth of the matter is, because of our free will, the honoring of the records and the lords of the records and your soul guidance team is really just a advice and suggestion.
Yeah. And when it comes to a life purpose, can you get a direct answer? Like, what is my soul's purpose in this lifetime? Or is it a little bit more ambiguous again?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. Generally, what happens in that scenario is you get pretty clear guidance on now. Okay, so I'm just going to take a little step back. So when I'm in your records, I sometimes get shown, it looks almost like a tree with the branches. So I get to see your timeline that you're on. And I also get to see some of the choice points and some of the potentials that happen in that as well. And so what happens is I can give you, reading pretty clear guidance of things that are of your highest potential to achieve your highest soul purpose in this lifetime. In whatever that is, it might be, teaching children, or, so I can give you fairly clear descriptions of things to do in your life. or things that you need to learn, deeper compassion, greater love, whatever it may be. But it can be a little bit more clear and a little bit more defined than that. So yeah, so you can get a pretty clear idea of what your soul purpose is. It doesn't quite go down to the level of saying, as part of your soul purpose, Irina, you need to write this book with this title, with this information. But it doesn't quite go to that level, because again, that's telling you to do something. But it could say, that you have this purpose to become an author, a great author, and you're going to be writing books to help, I'll just say, we talk about children, to help children gain wisdom in life skills. So what it's doing there is you've got a clear direction of that you can, if you choose to, take on writing books, and you even know the genre or the type of books and stuff you need to write, but then you and your free will get to choose the wording and the actual lessons within the chapters, so to speak.
Very well said. Thank you. Did you discover your soul purpose through Akashic Records? Did they have any part in your decision on what you're going to do?
That is a great question. I'd have to say yes. I'm taking a little bit of time thinking about it is how much of the yes. I guess I've always known a little bit about my future. I've all my life, I don't know why, I've never questioned it, but I see images of my future. Just an image or two is enough to give me an idea what the future is, but I don't know all the details, and I don't know how to get there, but I know the future. Yeah, I would have to say a lot of my soul purpose has been by going into the records, because it's a cumulative sort of thing. You're in the records about this, you're in the records about that, and as I am relatively regularly in my records, I then just get clarity in what I'm here to do and what I need to do. The other factors are things like I'm also a co-founder of this thing called the 111 activation, which is a soul activation. And that is specifically designed to accelerate our ability to connect with our soul, our higher purpose. And so that has a very key role in helping me be clear about my soul purpose, but also clear about anything that's aligned or not aligned with me, So that has a factor as well in the answer to your question. So
thank you. It does help, in direction and picking out, if this is I know right and wrong are bad words, but it's a path that you can pick, given that you saw yourself, some glimpses of the future. Yeah. So awesome. So how can it help people, like people who know nothing about all of this stuff, who think it's like a woo-woo thing? What would you tell those people? Why is it important to connect to your soul? Why is it important to know that inner wisdom? What would you say to them?
Okay. Well, I would say to this person, a lot of those people would go to a doctor if they need medical help. A lot of people would go to a tax accountant to get tax help. You also need to have an idea of the control of your life, what you're here to do, what you want to do, what is your purpose. Many people are very successful in various aspects of their life, but feel completely empty. They don't feel whole. They don't feel complete, but they might have followed the picket fence model that they were told to do, and they went to school and they went to university and they got a job and they got the family and they got the kids and they got the house, but they feel unsatisfied, So why don't you, instead of going to your accountant, go to your soul advisor, your Akashic Records, and get some really good advice and help you so that you can have your picket fence and you can have the happiness and the joy and the completeness and the fulfillment that you're here to do. It's not an exclusive. It's not a this or that. You can have both, but you feel empty because you're misaligned to what your soul and your soul purpose is. All you've done is done what everyone else has told you to do, your parents, based on society, but that's not really you. So you can still have whatever it is that you've created, but you can also include the pieces that's going to fill you up. It's going to give you love, give you joy, light you up, make you get up in the morning going, yeah, bring it on. So that's the sort of things that I would say to someone that isn't woo-woo, because this isn't woo-woo. This is getting guidance from that which gives you breath. So if you're going to ignore it, why don't you ignore your breath? And what's that going to do for you? You're going to die pretty quickly. So it's nothing woo-woo about it. It's about real world, being happy, being satisfied.
Thank you for for saying that. I think it is important because oftentimes we follow a predetermined path to fulfill society's obligations and your stature in life because you want to fit in and you want to appear normal. But then you get to that point in your life where you got all of everything that everybody said was important, but it's not really that important because you still feel empty on the inside. You still feel unfulfilled. Maybe you have an amazing job, a high-paying job, and you achieved all the awards. But if you still feel empty on the inside, then what kind of life is that? A life with regrets. Maybe the things that you didn't, take upon. You had the little inkling when you were growing up, but you dismissed it because it was outside of the regular norm or routine. And with Akashic Records, you get an opportunity to hone in on that, or maybe explore that particular idea or feeling and see where that could lead you. So very well said. Thank you.
Yeah, well said on your part, because that's exactly it. As a child, we have those inkling moments and they tend to get ignored. And then as we get older, you can go back and revisit those, one would say, by using the Akashic Records. Well said, Irina. And we need that. It helps us be whole, have a much better life.
Yes. So if somebody wants to experience Akashic Records, how would they get in touch with you?
Okay, well, probably my best bet's my website. If you website is Paul, Paul, Marwood, MARWOOD.com. So paulmarwood.com, that'll take you to my website. And in there, you'll see right on the homepage, a section with the Akashic Records. You can click on that. You can book a session. If you look in the menu system, there's actually even a little page there that's a separate page that you can click in the menus, which is how to prepare for an Akashic Record reading. So you can read a little bit more about it and the types of questions to ask and not ask. It really is in the Akashic Record readings that I do, it's a very free-flowing thing. It's like you and I doing in this conversation here now. You're gonna share some stuff with me. I'm gonna share some stuff with you. And then as you're sharing stuff with me, I'm consciously channeling your soul guidance team and who are connected to the Lords of the Records and your Akashic Records. And as you're sharing stuff with me, certain things highlight, and they will steer us down particular paths to help you get the answers that you need. And sometimes we'll actually be journeying back, if it's a trauma type thing, be journeying back to the source of that trauma and then reframing it. Again, this has nothing to do with Paul. I can't even control where we go. If it's a question that's related to an earlier lifetime, then they will guide us back. I have no control of that. I'll just, I'm the mouthpiece, one would say, of your soul guidance team to take us to that. And in some cases, you and I will actually journey back to that lifetime. That's where sometimes it gets really cool, because I'm seeing things and explaining stuff to you. And because you're in your records, many people will, if they relax into it, will be there in exactly the same place. So all of a sudden you're iterating stuff back to me, the same thing, same place, same time. And then you get to reframe and see the light of that trauma. You even can connect with yourself at that point. And that all gets guided again through the soul guidance team. And you reframe so that even the you in that lifetime suddenly becomes aware of the light rather than the dark or the trauma. And then as you reframe that, the you in that lifetime sees things differently, embraces the goodness instead of the pain and the suffering. And that sort of magically transfers through the timeline back up to you here now. And so if, say, for example, I'm afraid of water and I can't go and swim because my fear might be about a 7, 8, or a 9, when you go back in, usually you only need one, maybe two Akashic record readings. I have clients that have had 10 years of therapy and they still know better than they were when they started. And that's no disrespect to the therapist. Sometimes it's outside of this lifetime, so they just didn't have the tools to go and deal with that. So that's why in a single Akashic record reading, you can learn stuff, change stuff, and suddenly the fear of water goes from a 7, 8, or 9 down to a 3 or 4. You still have awareness, but it doesn't control you anymore. And there's a piece that happens in the records, which is to do with healing, energetic healing. And it just heals us. It one would say fixes us. And you're also bringing information that's stored in the unconscious, subconscious, that's timeless within our consciousness and brought to the conscious awareness. So in other words, as I'm explaining stuff to you and as you're potentially experiencing that lifetime, it suddenly becomes known in your conscious. You see it, you understand it, you know what happened, you understand why it happened. And because it's now in your conscious memory, you now have awareness of it, can act differently, react differently. It doesn't control you, whereas a subconscious, it kind of just controls us, so we're not even aware of that control. Does that make sense?
Totally. Subconscious is the operating manual of our mind, and oftentimes we are unaware. Like when we have a phone, we get an upgrade every month or so, right? But when was the last time we upgraded the software that runs our life? And Akashic Records do that.
Most definitely. Most definitely. Yeah. And so that's essentially what people can. I always record the readings because there's a lot of information that can come through. And I want whoever I'm doing the reading with to relax in the reading, so there's too much information to store and remember. So it's easier if it's recorded, then you can go back to it. And then days, weeks, months, sometimes I have clients that tell me, wow, 6 months later or even a year later, they go, wow, I didn't understand in the moment, but such and such happened and such came true. And now I understand such and such, so again, because of the timelessness of the records, sometimes things can come through in a reading that I and say you're the person I'm doing a reading for, you and I don't understand, but you just accept it, and it will unfold in the coming weeks or months, and suddenly it'll make perfect sense then, and you go, again, I think that's because the record's outside of time, so sometimes it can be something a little bit of the future, and we're just not aware of it at this point in time, and then so.
Nice. How long does each session last?
I would generally, they're an hour long. We would be in your records for probably about 45, 50 minutes or so. I just explain a little bit at the beginning to just say, this is what it is. This is the invocation. This is what I say to get into your records. This is what I say to get out. When I go in your records, it's both you and I going into your records. I can't go in and snoop in your records without your permission, which is a lovely thing. So the records are permission-based. So there's a high integrity, one would say. The Lords of the Records uphold that integrity. So if someone goes into, as I say, I can't go and snoop your records, whether I like it or not, without your permission. I think that's beautiful. And, anyone that does anything like that, it's just their imagination and they're just getting stuff, and it's not necessarily true because the records won't allow that to happen. That's the sanctity of your records. So it's a long-winded answer to your question.
Thank you. So I love this Akashic Record. It's a tool to get to know yourself better, and in a sense reclaim your life in that way. If you understand more about yourself, you can then relate better how you operate in this lifetime. You can learn your life purpose. You can get answers to your day-to-day challenges from somebody from your personal history, as opposed to external helpers, I'd say. So totally love this tool. Thank you, Paul, so much for coming and sharing this incredible opportunity, and we got to learn more about what it is. Any final words? Anything I haven't asked that you like to share?
I I would just like to encourage people, if even if you're just thinking about it, do it. What have you got to lose? It doesn't have to be with me, it can be any Akashic record reader. I would also encourage you, just tune in and let your inner guidance, maybe look at a couple of different Akashic record readers and see who feels right for you, because you need to be comfortable with that person or whoever it may be. So allow that piece to come in. But I would highly recommend, you won't be disappointed, and you're really tapping into the wisdom of your soul. And what a beautiful way to have something to guide you, someone, something. Your soul isn't really a one, it's a sort of a thing, but it's not a thing. Um, to guide you in your life. Your soul is there to guide you. It's your birthright. So make use of it.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Irina.